Hare Krishna. We continue reading from Caitaniya Caritamita Adi Leela, chapter 11, text 60. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Sangshepe Kahilan E Nityananda Gana Yanhara Avadi Napaya Sahasravadana. Translation by His Divine Grace in Srimad Bhagavatam Swami Srila Prabhupada. I have briefly described only some of the followers and devotees of Lord Nityananda Prabhu. Even the thousand-mouthed Sheshnag cannot describe all of these unlimited devotees. So, we have been hearing of some of the followers of Lord Nityananda. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami saying, I've just described very few of them. That also for my own means he's saying that it's only for his purification. And he's saying there's so many unlimited devotees that even Sheshnag cannot describe all of them. Sheshnag has 1,000 mouths and yet he cannot completely describe all of them. Shri Rupa Raghunatha Pade Yara Asha Caitanya Caritamita Kahe Krishna Dasa. Sorry, with an ardent desire to serve the purpose of Shri Rupa and Shri Raghunath. I, Krishna Das, narrate Shri Chaitanya Caritamrita, following in their footsteps. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purpose to Shri Chaitanya Caritamrita Adi Leela's 11th chapter in the matter of the expansions of Lord Nityananda. So we begin chapter 12, the expansions of Advaita Acharya and Gadadhar Pandit. Sorry. Bhakti Vinod Thakur gives a summary of the 12th chapter in his Amrita Pravaha Bhashya. The 12th chapter describes the followers of Advaita Prabhu, among whom the followers of Achyutananda, the son of Advaita Acharya, are understood to be the pure followers who receive the cream of the philosophy Sri Advaita Acharya enunciated. So in this chapter, we are going to be hearing about the followers of Advaita Acharya and Gadadhar Pandit, the expansions it's mentioned here. So Advaita Acharya had a son called Achyutananda, and he was a very, very exalted personality, and he spread the Krishna consciousness movement very far and wide, many followers. He strictly followed the philosophy of what Advaita Acharya is preaching. Other so-called descendants and followers of Advaita Acharya are not to be recognized. This chapter also includes narrations concerning the son of Advaita Acharya named Gopal Mishra and Advaita Acharya's servant named Kamalakanta Vishwa. So there are other descendants of Advaita Acharya who are not following properly the teachings. It happens, in any spiritual institution also. Some will follow properly, some might deviate. In his early life, Gopal fainted during the cleansing of the Gundicha Mandir at Jagannath Puri, and thus became a recipient of the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The story of Kamalakanta Vishwas concerns his borrowing 300 rupees from Prataparudra Maharaj to clear a debt of Advaita Acharyas, for which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chastised him when he came to know of it. Kamalakanta Vishwas was then purified by the request of Sri Advaita Acharya. After describing the descendants of Advaita Acharya, the chapter concludes by describing the followers of Gadadhar Pandit Goswami. So we first read in chapter 10, we were hearing the followers of Lord Chaitanya, 11, the followers of Lord Nityananda, and in 12, we are going to be hearing the followers of Advaita Acharya and Gadadhar Pandit. Advaitangari Abja Brikam Stan Sara Sara Brito Kelan Itava Saran Sara Brito Naomi Chaitanya Jivanan. The followers of Sri Advaita Prabhu were of two kinds. Some were real followers and the others were false. Rejecting the false followers, I offer my respectful obeisances to Sri Advaita Acharya's real followers, whose life and soul was Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jaya Jaya Mahaprabhu, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Jaya Jaya Nityānanda, Jaya Advaita Danya. All glories to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All glories to Lord Nityānanda. All glories to Sri Advaita Prabhu. All of them are glorious. Shri Chaitanya Marataro Dvitiya Skanda Rupina Srimad Advaita Chandrasya Shakha Rupan Gananuma. I offer my respectful obeisances to the all-glorious Advaita Prabhu, who forms the second branch of the eternal Chaitanya tree, and to his followers, who form his sub-branches. So this is Advaita Acharya. Rikeshara Dvitiya Skanda Acharya Gosai Tanrayata Shakha Hailatara Lekhanani. Sri Advaita Prabhu was the second big branch of the tree. There are many sub-branches, but it is impossible to mention them all. So the tree of Lord Chaitanya, the tree of love of Krishna, the two main the trunk is Lord Chaitanya himself, and then the two main branches, one is Lord Nityananda, other is Advaita Prabhu. Chaitanya Malira Kripa Jalera Sechane Se Jale Pushta Skanda Bari Dine Dine. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was also the gardener, and as he poured the water of his mercy on the tree, all the branches and sub-branches grew day after day. Se skande yata prema phala upajila, se Krishna prema phale jagat bharila. The fruits of love of Godhead that grew on those branches of the Chaitanya tree were so large that they flooded the entire world with love of Krishna. So how Lord Chaitanya and his associates are simply giving Krishna prema to everyone without consideration. Se jalaskande kare shakhate sanchara, phale phule bare shakha haila vistara. As the trunk and branches were watered, the branches and sub-branches spread lavishly, and the tree grew full with fruits and flowers. Pratameta eka mata acharyera gana, pache dvimata haila karana. At first, all the followers of Advaita Acharya shared a single opinion, but later they followed two different opinions as ordained by providence. The words Devera Karana indicate that by dint of providence or by God's will, the followers of Advaita Acharya divided into two parties. Such disagreement among the disciples of one Acharya is also found among the members of the Gaudiya Math. So sometimes it happens by the will of the Lord that the Acharya's teachings, someone may follow it properly and then some may deviate from the teachings. That's what happened with with Advaita Acharya's followers. And now Srila Prabhupada is saying also with the Gaudiya Math. In the beginning, during the presence of Om Vishnupad, Paramhansa Pravajikacharya, Ashottara Shata, Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, all the disciples worked in agreement. But just after his disappearance, they disagreed. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is the spiritual master of our Srila Prabhupada. So while he was here, all the disciples were in agreement, but after he left, there was some disagreement. One party strictly followed the instructions of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, but another group created their own concoction about executing his desires. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, at the time of his departure, requested all his disciples to form a governing body and conduct missionary activities cooperatively. He did not instruct a particular man to become the next Acharya, but just after his passing away, his leading secretaries made plans without authority to occupy the post of Acharya, and they split into two factions over who the next Acharya would be. Consequently, both factions were asar or useless because they had no authority, having disobeyed the order of the spiritual master. So when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, before he left his body, he told his disciples that there will not be only any one Acharya after I leave, but you get a governing body, make a committee of these disciples, and let them be the ones who's making the decisions and all that. But then as soon as he left, the disciples among themselves wanted to get power. And so they disobeyed the order of the spiritual master. Despite the spiritual master's order to form a governing body and execute the missionary activities of the Gaudiya Math, the two unauthorized factions began litigation that is still going on after 40 years with no decision. Therefore, we do not belong to any faction, but because the two parties, busy dividing the material assets of the Gaudiya Math institution, stopped the preaching work, we took up the mission of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Bhaktivinoda Thakur to preach the cult of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu all over the world under the protection of all the predecessor acharyas. And we find that our humble attempt has been successful. So Srila Prabhupada is saying he's not in either of the two parties. He just wants to follow the order of his spiritual master to spread Krishna consciousness everywhere. And that's what he did. We followed the principles especially explained by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his commentary on the Bhagavad Gita verse, beginning Vyayasyatmika buddhir ekeha kurunandana. So Srila Prabhupada says that this verse, this commentary by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, really gave him the inspiration to take up the order of his spiritual master with firm faith. According to this instruction of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, it is the duty of a disciple to follow strictly the orders of his spiritual master. The secret of success in advancement in spiritual life is the firm faith of the disciple in the orders of his spiritual master. So, eke vyayasyatmika buddhir ekeha kurunandana. In this purport, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is writing that to have this firm faith in the orders of the spiritual master and actually follow the instructions of the spiritual master. And in this way, we can receive the mercy of Krishna. The Vedas confirm this. Yasya deve parabhaktir yatha deve tatha gurav tasyete kathitai artha prakashante mahatmanaha. To one who has staunch faith in the words of the spiritual master and the words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the secret of success in Vedic knowledge is revealed. So, Yasya deve parabhaktir yatha deve tatha gurav. What is the Vedas saying? That one who has firm faith in both the spiritual master and Krishna. Both. And in this way, the knowledge will be automatically revealed. Spiritual knowledge is revealed to us. The Krishna consciousness movement is being propagated according to this principle. And therefore, our preaching work is going on successfully. in spite of the many impediments offered by antagonistic demons, because we are getting positive help from our previous acharyas. One must judge every action by its result. The members of the self-appointed acharya's party who occupied the property of the Gaudiya Math are satisfied, but they could make no progress in preaching. Therefore, by the result of their actions, one should know that they are asar or useless, whereas the success of the ISKCON party, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, which strictly follows Guru and Gauranga, is increasing daily all over the world. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wanted to print as many books as possible and distribute them all over the world. We have tried our best in this connection, and we are getting results beyond our expectations. So, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he wanted that this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita be spread all over the world in all the languages. And we can see that's practically, it's happening. It's happened today. Now, all over the world, Bhagavad Gita is being printed, is being read, it's being distributed. Kehata Acharya Agnaya, Kehata Swatantara, Swamata Kalpana Kare, Deva Paratantra. Some of the disciples strictly accepted the orders of the Acharya, and others deviated, independently concocting their own opinions under the spell of their mind. This verse describes the beginning of a schism, when disciples do not stick to the principle of accepting the order of their spiritual master. Immediately there are two opinions. Any opinion different from the opinion of the spiritual master is useless. One cannot infiltrate materially concocted ideas into spiritual advancement. That is deviation. There is no scope for adjusting spiritual advancement to material ideas. So, we cannot alter the spiritual knowledge. If we want to understand the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, we have to accept the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita as it is. We cannot say, oh no, Bhagavad Gita should be like this. Why is it not like that? No, if we are gonna, with our mind, try to make adjustments to the knowledge, then that's not the true knowledge. We simply have to receive the true knowledge. And that's how we can understand the spiritual knowledge. Acharyera mataye se matasar, tanra agya langi chale se ta asar. The order of the spiritual master is the active principle in spiritual life. Anyone who disobeys the order of the spiritual master immediately becomes useless. Here is the opinion of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Persons who strictly follow the orders of the spiritual master are useful in executing the will of the Supreme, whereas persons who deviate from the strict order of the spiritual master are useless. So this is how important it is to follow the order of the spiritual master. Because otherwise our mind, we may imagine different theories. We may imagine, concoct our own ideas about God or our position. So that's why we should just follow the bona fide spiritual master. Asarera name ihana hi prayojana veda jani bare kari ekatra ganana. There's no need to name those who are useless. I've mentioned them only to distinguish them from the useful devotees. Dhanya rashi mape yaiche patana sahite paschate patana udana samskara karite. Paddy is mixed with straw at first, and one must fan it to separate the paddy from the straw. This example given by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is very appropriate. In the case of the Gaudiya Math members, one can apply a similar process. There are many disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, but to judge who is actually his disciple, to divide the useful from the useless, one must measure the activities of such disciples in executing the will of the spiritual master. So the actions show. The results show. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur tried his best to spread the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to countries outside India. When he was present, he patronized the disciples to go outside India to preach the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But they were unsuccessful because within their minds, they were not actually serious about preaching his cult in foreign countries. They simply wanted to take credit for having gone to foreign lands and utilize this recognition in India by advertising themselves as repatriated preachers. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur means he is the spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada. At that time, he was also sending so many of his disciples to go abroad, and he was maintaining them. He was sending them money so they could maintain themselves in the foreign lands. So just so that they could preach, but they were not successful. They're not very successful to give this Krishna consciousness to the people of the West. Many Swamis have adopted this hypocritical means of preaching for the last 80 years or more. But no one could preach the real cult of Krishna consciousness all over the world. They merely came back to India, falsely advertising that they had converted all the foreigners to the ideas of Vedanta or Krishna consciousness. And then they collected funds in India and lived satisfied lives of material comfort. As one finds paddy to separate the real paddy from useless straw, by accepting the criterion recommended by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, one can very easily understand who is a genuine world preacher and who is useless. So the preacher, he's not interested in material comforts. He just wants to give Krishna consciousness to everyone and anyone and everyone. And we can see this is what Srila Prabhupada's mood was, to give Krishna consciousness to everyone. Achyutananda Barashakha
I just have
Acharya.
one thing to say. So they
Yeah,
really did that they came back and they said that we have converted everybody.
yeah,
Wow.
that's what Prabhupada is mentioning here.
Yeah, but that's so surprising, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
So this was the people sent by Saraswati Thakur, right?
that's right.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Achyutananda Barashakha Acharya Nandana Ajanma Sevila Teno Chaitanya Charana. A big branch of Advaita Acharya was his son Achyutananda. From the beginning of his life, he engaged in the service of the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya. So Achyutananda, the son of Advaita Acharya, a very, very powerful personality, made many, many devotees. Chaitanya Gosaira Guru Keshava Bharate E Pitara Vakya Ashuni Dukha Pailate. And Achyutananda heard from his father that Keshav Bharati was the spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was very unhappy. So Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself. But whenever Krishna comes, he also takes spiritual master to set an example, right, for us. Otherwise, we will say, oh, Krishna didn't accept spiritual master, why should I? So he does it. So Lord Chaitanya took sannyas from Keshav Bharati. So Achyutananda, he's like not very happy to hear that Keshav Bharati is the spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya. Jagat Guru de tumi karai che upadesh tomara se e upadesh nashta haila desh. He told his father, your instruction that Keshav Bharati is the spiritual master of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will spoil the entire country. Choda Bhuvanera Guru, Chaitanya Gosai, Tanra Guru, Anya Ekona Shastrina. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the spiritual master of the 14 worlds, but you say that someone else is a spiritual master. This is not supported by any revealed scripture. So Achyutananda is telling his father, Lord Chaitanya is the original Guru. He's the spiritual master. He's the original speaker of the Vedas. It's Krishna himself, no? Panchama Varshera Balaka Kahe Siddhante Rasa Shunya Paila Acharya Santosha Pa. When Advaita Acharya heard this statement from his 5-year-old son Achyutananda, he felt great satisfaction because of his conclusive judgment. So at that time, Achyutananda was only 5 years old, and he's telling his father that. Imagine, at 5 years old, what are we talking about? 5 years old, we are probably in kindergarten, we're learning ABCs, so we're talking about, playing or playing with friends. And here Achyutananda is speaking about the Siddhanta, the principles. You can see how great personality he is, not an ordinary person. We'll read the purport the next time. It's a long purport. If that's okay with you all, we'll stop here for today. Are there any other
Yes.
comments or questions? No. Caitaniya Caritamita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for listening.